Hello, everybody. I'm Sean Reynolds from Sports, and about to be joined by Ken Wiebe from the Winnipeg Free Press. Together, we are Kenny and Renny, and this is the Kenny and Renny post-game show after the game in which Connor Hellebuyck hit the mark, the 300th win of his career in a fashion that you cannot deny is about as impressive as it gets. Historic is what it is. We'll get into it, Ken and I, kind of the significance of this, how fast Connor Hellebuyck has done, I believe, the third goaltender in the history of the game, or the third fastest goaltender in the history, the 100-year-plus history of the NHL to get to 300 wins, and the second fastest, only to, if you saw my opening when they were playing against over the weekend against the Detroit Red Wings, only the second fastest goaltender to get to 300 wins with 40 shutouts. That's a lot of shutouts for 300 wins. The only faster goaltender to do it was Jacques Plante. So clearly Jacques Plante is one of the two goaltenders faster to 300. And what Hellebuyck fashion to do it in. I thought Connor Hellebuyck was absolutely brilliant on this night. Took the perfect shot, and what a shot to beat him for the first one. Took a ricochet in front of the net to beat him on the second one. No human was stopping the ones that went in on him. So it's a night where he's near perfect. I've said this a lot about a lot of nights. You know, sometimes you get the shutouts and you're not the best player in the game. There was no question about it in this game. Connor Hellebuyck was the best player on the ice for either team. It is said here, I believe, by Pat Rathwell at some point that this was, where are we, Pat? I should have there. Okay, here we go. Pat says, was at the game tonight, and we were very fortunate to be up 3-0 after the first. I completely agree with that. John Lou and I watching the game, I don't know how it ended up, but at some point, the high danger stats were suggesting that this was just a very kind of even game. Winnipeg Jets were either, you can take your pick, it's probably both, but either more opportunistic, more capable of cashing in on the offense that they created, or they didn't have Connor Hellebuyck, or the Nashville Predators didn't have Connor Hellebuyck in their net, who, as I said, was the best player in this game and absolutely brilliant on this night. Regardless, I take a look at this. I think it's a good win for the Winnipeg Jets coming out of 3 straight losses. But to me, this is just, I don't know that there's a lot to say about this game other than the fact that I just think it is a microcosm of the brilliance that we've seen from Connor Hellebuyck throughout his career, and just, you know, a continued example of, I really, you know, he said so afterwards, he was thinking about this, he wanted this. I love that he wanted this. I think at one point, and we'll address some of the comments he made, but I think at one point, Connor Hellebuyck in his career would have just shut his brain off and said, that will come. I'm just going to go do my same thing. I love that Connor Hellebuyck took a look at the last couple games, that he wasn't able to hit that mark and was a little bit like, forget this, let's get at it. Let's go out and win this game. And he just went and did it tonight. Connor Hellebuyck earned himself his 300th win. He didn't wait for someone to get it for him. He didn't wait for his team to shut everything down. Connor Hellebuyck went out and took this and took a slice of history on this night. No better way to do it, doing it in very Connor Hellebuyck style. We'll get into everything else. I'm not going to wait any longer. I'm going to bring in the man with the best music in the business to get into it with me. Here comes Kenny, folks. Kenny, my friend, looking good, looking sharp, looking into the camera. Those 3 things are one thing that you always do very, very well on this show, Ken. And then maybe it didn't start out that way, but I'm liking what it's almost like, I Can't see the tie from
You
here.
should recognize it though. It's one of your
It's one of my,
hand-me-downs, buddy.
it's got a little bit of the golds, the little bit of gold in there. You almost look like you got
orange and
bomber
silver and
colors
navy,
going on.
buddy.
More
No,
copper, I think, if
orange.
I remember it.
Copper,
Orangey,
yeah.
orangey copper. Regardless, you look good. It's supposed to be worn with a blue suit, just like that. And I think that's a blue shirt as well. Looks like $1 million bucks. And of course you do, because you went down and I got that tie, I can tell you, from Frankie and the boys down at Vittorio Rossi. You got the rest of it put together, but one thing is for certain: Frankie put his stamp on the whole thing, and that's why you look so good. And if you want to look as good as Kenny does, solid gold out of the gate, you know what to do. Head on down to Vittorio Rossi on Corden Avenue. Walk in, loudly proclaim that Kenny and Renny sent you. Ask for Frankie and the boys, and they will leave you looking like a solid gold member out there. Ken, let's just get into Connor Hellebuyck right off the bat. Can't let this one wait. Can't let it breathe. Take away his game tonight, his accomplishment tonight, the way he talked about it afterwards. I want to get into it all.
Yeah, I'm going to leave most of the reaction from Hellebuyck to you, because you were down there while I was writing frantically here to make deadline. But as for the accomplishment, I mean, for context, it's ridiculous. I mean, second fastest in history to hit 300 wins and 40 shutouts. Only Jacques Plante has done it quicker. Third fastest to 300 wins. Only Plante and Andrei Vasilevsky have got to that number quicker.
Fasty, okay. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's fairly my lead that just got posted at Free Press at WinnipegFreePress.com is Connor Hellebuyck hit another milestone and took another step into the rarefied air. I mean, it's pretty nuts. I mean, it's funny, Sean, and funny may not be the right word, but I spoke with Cole Perfetti on the weekend going into it's sort of doing some pre work here for him getting to this point. And he said, you know, you run out of things to say, but what you can say is that the Jets are the only team in the NHL that play in front of the best goalie in the world. And that is a pretty crazy to think that if you're Cole Perfetti or if you're Josh Morrissey, I mean, one of the only goalies you've ever seen is Connor Hellebuyck, and he has performed at a fairly ridiculous level since becoming an NHL regular. I mean, there was one hiccup season, but I mean, this is a guy who is doing things that, like, we're talking the elite of the elite right now, Sean. I mean, this is really, it's impressive. It's hard to put into words sometimes. I mean, it's spectacular. It's impressive. It's, and I think one of the more important things to me, Sean, is that it's his ability to find another level, and he's going to need to find another level in April, May, and potentially in June. But his ability to, you know, we thought last year was probably as good as it's going to get for Connor Hellebuyck in terms of what he was doing numbers wise and in terms of his own play. But then he shows up at camp after the disappointment of the first round series and brings another level that is downright, like, dominant. I mean, not just Vezina dominant, but like potentially Hart Trophy dominant. And, you know, he gives up four goals on the weekend, and you kind of wonder, oh, what's going on? I mean, what's wrong with Connor Hellebuyck? Well, he's allowed to look normal, you know, once or twice out of 30, what is that now, 33 starts. So it's just impressive. I mean, there's really no other way to put it for me. I mean, team needs a save. Connor Hellebuyck generally makes the save. I mean, today it gets to be a 5-on-3, and guess what? You're going to need Connor Hellebuyck to make 3, 4, 5 saves to keep the game a 2-goal game rather than a 1-goal hair on fire special at the end. So, I mean, again, we're lucky. We've seen a lot of great goaltending performances over the years, but a lot of them have been authored by Connor Hellebuyck, and it's just pretty darn impressive. Is sort of the word that I'm left with, you know, that's the word that I'm left using most often. So I'll cede the floor here to you. And his reaction, for what I did see in terms of his reaction, was his, you know, vehement fist pumping and pointing to the chest. And what I did catch, and I listened to the entire interview afterward in putting the quotes together. I mean, Sean, wanting to include, like, we often hear players talk, excuse me, about fans and, you know, impact and all of those things. But I mean, this is one of the biggest moments, personal moments of Connor Hellebuyck's career, that he went out of his way to say that he wanted to share that emotion with the people in the building, and those people that have been in his corner ever since the Jets chose him in the 5th round of the 2012 draft. To me, that shows a maturity in Connor Hellebuyck that is impressive. When you see a guy come in at, in his early 20s and now he's in his early 30s, you hope to see some maturity. And what you've seen is a guy who not only has signed up for 7 years in his prime to try to become a Steve Yzerman type of person and play your entire career with one organization. He's done it in a place that he appreciates, loves, and appreciates the love that has shown towards him.
I want to touch on that, but I want to just talk about Spency here, who says, imagine where Hellebuyck's career would be if Chevy hadn't signed Steve Mason to push him that 1 year. It's just too good of a bit for us to leave it alone, Ken. So I'm just going to go with it. Spency, get out of my hot tub. That's a red hot take. And if I know Spency, he's sitting in that hot tub right now with that hat that you see him wearing and a beer in either hand. Maybe, just maybe, some nectar of the gods going either way. This is a great take. So get on out of my hot tub there, Spency. Ken,
I thought you were going wake up call with that one.
No, I loved it. Hey, listen, Connor Hellebuyck came out. They handed him the keys. It didn't go well the first. They went out and they got that guy. And you cannot tell me that Connor Hellebuyck didn't have a little bit of a whoa. Hold on a second. I'm not giving this crease up. When he got his opportunity that year, that was the launch. Like, that was when we started seeing Spency nails this. That's when we started seeing that Connor Hellebuyck, who is like, no way. That's not happening. That kind of mindset. We didn't see it in his first year in the league. And I'm not saying that to be critical. He's a rookie trying to figure out what it's like to be a starting goaltender. But Spency nails this. This is a point where it absolutely turns. So that's a great take there. I get, Ken, when I have had conversations and when I say things, and I've said this before, how when I talk about Connor Hellebuyck and at times I'll be critical of certain play, I've said it before. You've heard me say this a million times. I'm not backing off from saying it, because if you said it, you got to stand by the things that you say. The idea when people talk about, well, you're going into the playoffs, you've got that advantage. Connor Hellebuyck in the playoffs as being like a playoff advantage, that's a myth. We haven't seen it yet. It still needs to materialize. That's something we're looking forward to this year. But can I understand why the fans get so angry at me, the people in the chat room, Jets fans, when I say those kind of things? I look at it and I just think, look, I'm on here all the time being, pumping the tires of players when I think they deserve it and being critical of players when I think they deserve it. But it's different with Connor Hellebuyck. When I'm any kind of criticism, there's a real, you are not allowed to talk in any kind of negative tone about Connor Hellebuyck to Jets fans. And here's the reason why, Ken. He's not only an all-timer, right, in what he's doing here. He's not only heading to the Hall of Fame. He's not only on the path to be one of the greatest, and maybe in the conversation at some point, the greatest goaltenders of all time. But the way he's connected with the fans, the way he feels about this city, truly great players. And when we say this, I shouldn't say that. When you say a guy as far as who he is in an organization, truly great Chicago Blackhawks, truly great Montreal Canadiens, truly great Winnipeg Jets, are not only great players on the ice, but they find a way to connect with the city and the fans. Connor Hellebuyck has done that, and in doing that has carved out a place in the hearts of Winnipeg Jets fans. And so when Jets fans think I'm coming at Connor Hellebuyck, they think you're coming at my boy and you're attacking my heart. And so I very much understand why fans get miffed when I do what I'm basically doing with every other player on the team. There's just an unwritten rule in the hearts of Jets fans. You're not allowed to come at Connor Hellebuyck. Tune into the Kenny and Renny show. I'll continue doing what I'm doing. You continue getting mad at it. But I get it. I see it, and I love it. I love the connection that is made there. That's how it should be. Really great players who owe things to their organization should be connecting with their fans the way that they are. And I think that Connor Hellebuyck doing that, he's done a really great job of it. And Ken, it brings me to my next point. He made a real good point, which I thought was really classy, about the Winnipeg Jets organization. He's like, I don't do this without, the Winnipeg Jets organization backing. He's 1,000,000,000% right. And I want you to wax poetic for a little bit on just what it is about the Winnipeg Jets that have allowed him to be this kind of goaltender, but also provided him the opportunities to be this kind of goaltender.
Yeah, I mean, and I think the cool thing about the whole Hellebuyck story that is, like, it's impressive at its core, but like, here's a guy who's a 5th round draft pick. Like, he's playing for the Odessa Jackalopes, Sean. Not a, again, nice program, but not exactly somewhere where you're thinking it's a goalie factory or whatever else. So always had, and I love the story too, because it goes back to, getting overlooked for the USHL, getting overlooked here, getting overlooked in the NAHL draft, taking a free agent deal, playing for a former NHLer, and becoming one of the best goalies now of his generation, maybe an all-timer. I mean, the fact that he loves the outdoors, like Dustin Byfuglien, right? He's a guy who, and honestly, so we might have to. I certainly kind of felt like I missed the tea leaf reading. I mean, we thought that Connor was going to be gone, basically,
Yeah.
right? We kind of misevaluated what this community meant to him, and kind of thought that, another American guy wants to go back home and play for the Detroit Red Wings. I mean, here he was first to commit, and not only did he commit, he said, "I'll commit if you sign the other guy to the exact same deal." That to me is impressive, and the Jets have always appreciated Connor Hellebuyck, and Sean. I mean, we were just teenagers when the Jets were here the first time, but what we know, what we've heard from people like the greatest player who ever laced up the blades, is that the Jets were a great team that were always lacking spectacular goaltending. Right? If you listen to Wayne Gretzky, anytime he talks about the Jets, he said, "We have Grant Fuhrer. They didn't." Right? So
Oh yeah. Yeah.
that's something. So what are the 2.0 Jets? What do they have that the 1.0 Jets didn't have? They have the most important position taken care of, and they've had it taken care of since he arrived on the scene as a long shot 5th round draft pick. A guy who is internally and intrinsically motivated to get better, a guy who has this ridiculous amount of belief, and has since the day he arrived on the scene, and, looked into his crystal ball and said, "I want to win a couple of Vezinas, and I want to win the Stanley Cup. That's how I'm feeling about my game right now." It didn't matter that he'd been pulled 8 times by Paul Maurice in that season. He's done everything now except the last one. Now he's got to take care of the last piece of that puzzle, and that's win the silver trophy at the end of the Stanley Cup rainbow. But I mean, this is a guy who's done pretty much everything else that he's set out to do in his career. So that's impressed me. Jets have surrounded him by, they've made this a community for him and Andrea and their children that they love growing up in. We know the importance of family to Connor. He's mentioned it. He's talked about it, bringing his, my kids will remember the All-Star games, everything else. And, social influencer Chuck, his father, has become kind of a little bit of a internet legend around these parts. So it's a really cool story. Guy who's incredibly confident, but Sean, he's incredibly humble, right? I mean, he comes from humble beginnings. This isn't a silver spoon player that was handed everything and, was part of the program and everything else. And, that also kind of adds to his story. Connor did it the hard way, which is why people in this community appreciate him even more. And that's sort of the other part of the story that I think resonates with so many people in Manitoba, and not just in Manitoba, like people around the world, essentially in the hockey world. But that's a player that people have really embraced because of all of those other qualities that have gone along with him being a superstar. And Sean, I'm going to say it now. I mean, the Ducky statue is going to have company.
Yep.
And Connor's getting a statue. I mean, Mark Scheifele may still get a statue, but there will be a statue of number 37 that is at True North Square at some point. And it's a deserving feat for him. And, now he's going to try to tackle that other piece of on the wish list for him. And if he does that, he will, I mean, he's already going to be remembered forever. And If he can take care of that other piece, and if there's a parade down Portage Avenue by the time before this 7-year deal is expiring, it will take that storybook ending to another level completely.
Yeah. First off, Ken, I just want to say I don't know if we've got 375,000 people in the chat room right
It's
now. I
impressive.
don't
Yes.
know if you gathered them all together before the show and gave them the Pristine Roofing wake-up call, but I have never seen a wallpaper of bang on comments the way that they are today. Like, it's like Connor Hellebuyck got his 300th win and like the light went on and everybody seems to have gotten the wake-up call because they are on fire in the chat room. And hey, you know what that means. Time for the Pristine Roofing wake-up call. That means it's time to give North End Rick the Pristine Roofing wake-up call at 204-981-6289. He's the guy you want down at your place for all your roofing, siding, exteriors, softening. If it goes on the outside of your house, they do it. North End Rick will tell you exactly what you need, or you can call Pristine Roofing at 204-237-7663. Went for coffee with Rick this week. He reminded me that, folks, if you're waiting to get on the list for any kind of work to be done, they work year round. And he assures me, and I know this from being in the roofing industry, if you get your roof done tomorrow or you get it done in June, there's no difference. You don't have to worry about it happening. They wouldn't be doing the work if they knew that work wasn't going to work. So, hey, if you had any plans to get on a list for this year, maybe you can just go get it done right now. Pristine Roofing, working year round, just like Kenny and Renny. Well, maybe I don't do much work in the summer. Ken works harder on the golf course than he does in this job year round. But either way, Pristine Roofing wake-up call has been given and received by the folks in the chat room. They are slaying it tonight. I wanted to say this. Connor Hellebuyck, I've talked about this in the past. I do think that the Winnipeg Jets have taken this like monolith on the back end, and for years they have shaped their team around that player, which is what you do with good players. But Connor Hellebuyck has said it before. This is a team that for years, even he used to say this to me, Ken, even in those years where there was those crazy high danger chances and it felt like the Jets were hanging him out to dry. He'd even tell me in those days, he'd say, like, I get it. I know what the numbers say, but this team makes it easy for me to understand where those shots are going to come from. So even if they're high danger, I know where they're coming from. I know what the shot is, so I can prepare for it. Right now, the team has kind of built this, the Jets, you want to talk about Connor Hellebuyck getting to 300 wins fast. Well, the Jets had more wins than anybody else in the calendar year of 2024, right? He's a big part of that. The other thing about the Winnipeg Jets year after year, Ken, when we've talked about how much he plays, concerns potentially about whether or not he gets tired out going into the playoffs, that doesn't happen. We're not having that conversation if the Winnipeg Jets as an organization are not an organization that has been okay allowing Connor Hellebuyck to take the crease as much as he has year after year after year. There's never been a situation where a goaltender like LB came in last year and played phenomenal. And remember, I said it, his numbers were the same as Connor Hellebuyck's were, but the number of starts that he had did not go up in correlation with that because the Winnipeg Jets have stayed as true to Connor Hellebuyck as the most faithful spouse, whatever your partner, whatever you want to call about it. The Winnipeg Jets are faithful to Connor Hellebuyck and provide him typically with what he wants, Ken, with what he needs. And you do not get to 300 wins if you're not an organization that's going out and winning games. Now, Connor Hellebuyck has stolen his fair share of those 300 wins. No doubt about it. But the Winnipeg Jets have been a pretty darn good. He said it today. This has been a good team ever since I arrived here. It wasn't exactly the case in the 2016-17 season when he started, but the Winnipeg Jets have made the playoffs every single year after that, except for one. Now, is he a huge part of that? He's the biggest part of that, period. That's the way it goes. He's the biggest part of that. But at the same time, Mark Chipman decided he didn't want to tear things down. He said, I don't want to do a rebuild. 2 years ago, like you said, he could have been gone. They could have given up on him. They could have moved him and tried to rebuild. They decided not to do it. They've committed to trying to be a team that goes for it year after year after year after year. Connor Hellebuyck hasn't had to be the goaltender on a team that decided to sell off all their assets and start all over again. He hasn't had to be that guy that they're retooling in this situation. The Winnipeg Jets have tried to stay at the very top of their game every single year since he's been going there. So Connor Hellebuyck is lucky to be a Winnipeg Jet because the Winnipeg Jets are provided the circumstances. They built their team in a way that Connor Hellebuyck could be a guy to pile up a lot of wins. And here, we talked about the all-timeness of what he's doing here. Jacques Plante being the only goalie to get to 300 wins and 40 faster. I think that this is maybe a more fascinating stat than that, Ken. You take a look at a guy like John Gibson, older than Connor Hellebuyck, got into the year, started out in the league basically, I think it's 4 years earlier or something like that, was a really good, has been a great goaltender in the league for a long time. He just got his 200th win the other night, Ken. He just got his 200th win. That was insane when I saw that. When I saw the celebration of John Gibson hitting his 200th win, I was like, John Gibson strikes me as an old goaltender compared to Connor Hellebuyck, who's in his 30s right now, who's been around for a long time. In the first number of years that John Gibson was in the league, he was playing for a very, very good Anaheim Ducks team. That was a great team that was going to the playoffs all the time. But the Anaheim Ducks have also been rebuilding for a long time, and they've been kind of down in the dumps. So if you are looking for an explanation of how a guy who's been in the league far longer than Connor Hellebuyck is not ahead of him or even hovering around 300 wins, it's the team that he's on. He has not had the opportunity to build up those wins the way Connor Hellebuyck has, taking nothing away from Connor Hellebuyck doing this. But Connor Hellebuyck is right when he says he's lucky to be a Winnipeg Jet because he's not a 300 win guy this fast if he does not have an organization that sees how special he is and puts the resources into that team to make sure that he can show off how special he is, Ken.
Yeah, it's just really, honestly, what we're witnessing is pretty special. And yeah, I mean, we're going to look back at this one day, Sean, and say, wow, that was a crazy stretch of hockey. And there's a lot of teams that wish that they had that stability between the pipes, right? Even some of the best teams in the NHL. And one of the hottest teams in the NHL went out and got a goalie in Mackenzie Blackwood. I mean, like, that's, you have to have goaltending. And when you don't have goaltending, you have endless question marks. And the Jets don't have that. Scott Arniel can show up and rate his lineup card and be very confident that he's going to be getting, the best version of Connor Hellebuyck. And sometimes even when he doesn't have the A+ version, the B- version is better than a lot of people's A+ version. So it's been impressive. And again, what we do know is that Connor Hellebuyck thrives on being a workhorse, but we also know that Eric Comrie has 9 starts through 42 games, and that number's got to be on the rise, right? And then after this weekend, the Jets only have 2 back-to-backs left on the schedule, so they're going to have to find some windows for him to be getting additional starts. For me, the number still has to be 20, and they'd probably be more comfortable if it was at 22. But overall, I think Connor Hellebuyck's story is, let's just put it this way. It is a, Connor Hellebuyck's talking about gratitude, telling his story, and being here from the beginning of it, from when he was drafted to, the end of it, is going to be something that we go down and tell people that was a pretty cool thing to be able to do. And again, there have been ups and downs, and going back to the first, hot take and great comment. I mean, signing Steve Mason was important for the Winnipeg Jets. No matter how you look at the history, he only spent 1 year here, but he helped Connor Hellebuyck get his own pristine roofing wake-up call when he started, I think, the first 2 games of the year. And then that era was basically moved to Steve Mason, the supportive backup. So it's been pretty cool stuff, is what I would say. And I also, too, I love the way that, the appreciation inside the building, Sean, the standing ovation during the broadcast timeout after the Jets killed off the 5-on-3, and knowing that
Oh
Hellebuyck
yeah.
made 3 or 4 ridiculous saves. You know, that's what Jets fans are known for, recognizing the moment and, you know, letting their team know how they feel about it. And Connor Hellebuyck was appreciative of that moment as well.
Okay. Anything else to say before we move on from Connor Hellebuyck? I want to make sure
I
we
think it
feel we've
ties it up
given him
nicely. I
that the
think
first half hour of a hour
it's
show. I
deserving
think,
for sure,
yeah,
but
it is most definitely deserved. I want to make sure that we are honoring it the way that we should, because it's a big deal. We
and
should
sorry, you
treat it
touched
this
on
way
it in the comments. Wade Flaherty has a big piece of this also,
for
and
sure. Yeah.
this is someone who is among the best at what he does in the job also. Wade is an incredibly humble person. I covered him when he played for the Manitoba Moose. I've known him for close, 20 years probably now. This is someone who loves the job that he has, and he adapts to the people that are around him, but he has a foundation that he's able to instill an incredible amount of confidence in the people that he employs under his watch. And although Connor Hellebuyck is an incredibly driven individual, his ability to be around someone like Wade Flaherty has helped him become one of the greatest of all time as well. And I just think that it's worth, maybe that's a good way to tie a bow on it as we move on to some of the other subjects here.
It is too, because that's a great way to do it. Because I'll say this: John Garrett comes in time and time again, and points out. John Garrett, of course, a goaltender in the NHL, points out that, like, he's like, "Where's the flaw? Where's the mistake? Where's the guy who didn't come to Winnipeg and kind of pop up as the best version of himself?" You know, big save Dave comes in, LB twice. You know, like the times that they've brought in. Comrie into this organization. Like, these are a lot of guys that no one was beating down LB's door to go get him at that time. And Wade Flaherty helped identify him and say, we can get more out of this guy. They did the same thing with Riddick. Go on, Ken.
Cambrian, that sounds like a good payoff, sticking with Wade Flaherty
Oh,
as the
well
goalie coach
done.
for the
Well
Winnipeg Jets.
done. Ken trying to take over my job here. The 300 wins has Ken
Just out there
being
trying to
bold.
help, Sean.
Yeah.
Not trying to
Okay.
do your job.
Sure.
No,
That's
just
one
trying to
way of
help.
looking at it. Sure. But either way, Ken, I do appreciate it. And I do think you're right. That has paid off in every single way. Whenever they bring someone in, Wade Flaherty gets the best out of them. Wade Flaherty has paid off multiple times over and over again over the years for the Winnipeg Jets. And hey, if you're looking to pay off high interest credit cards or debt, we suggest you go talk to our friends at Cambridge Credit Union about their payoff loan. They can show you how taking out a loan to pay off your debt actually gets you debt free faster, and you can save thousands of dollars. So go to cambrian.mb.ca to book an appointment online. Okay. I want to make sure we get to all the different things here. Let's do this. Quick conversation about the chemistry that we have found now between, sorry, I shouldn't say we have found, that we are seeing from like not just the power play, but specifically Nikolai Ehlers and Gabe Vilardi, Ken.
Yeah, this is an added wrinkle that has been a very impressive thing for the Winnipeg Jets. And I'm sorry, that's my word of the day here. But the ability to find him in space, now it's multiple spaces in multiple games. You know, the Ottawa game is the cross crease, finding him in the slot, even though it was accidental. I just like the chemistry there. I think that these two guys are definitely, picking up what the other guy is putting down. There's a lot of great non-verbal communication that's happening on the ice between the two of them. The spacing has been exceptional. I mean, vision of Ehlers today is just bang on. But it's also Vilardi going to the right spots, right? I mean, this isn't just a one-man show. This is two people thinking in unison, Sean, and what they're making is incredible magic together. Quite frankly, when it comes to the power play, and Ehlers' ability to have an impact on the top unit after plenty of people saying that he should be on it way earlier. I love the creativity that Davis Payne has shown in integrating Nikolai Ehlers, where and making him feel a big part of it, even though he was asked to make the move to another position instead of being the guy on the downward plane, being the guy who's, running the power play runs through him on the second unit at the left point with his ability to shoot the puck and all of those things. It has been exceptional to watch. I mean, Gabe Vilardi is someone that is just been he's an exceptional player. He's not a one-trick pony, but he has 10 power play goals. Sean, that's one more than Kyle Connor, who is a prolific power play performer. Nikolai Ehlers last year, 0 power play goals. Nikolai Ehlers this year already has 4 power play goals in 33 games. His ability to dish now on the power play has been exceptional. Vilardi's hands we've talked about so much, and his ability to make plays in tight spaces around the blue paint is impressive. And again, I said this with Hustler a while back, Sean. I never thought that the Macarena would be a song that brings people out of their seats. And that is something that has been interesting to monitor, don't you think?
Oh yeah, no doubt. Well, it kind of reminds me, it's a similar song, I think, to what was the PLD song that they used to play and everyone loved that one,
The Ooh Ah special.
The Ooh Ah special. Yeah, it's
no,
kind of like
the Alejandro Kirk special.
Yeah,
also.
It's kind of like those ones that when you were at the club when you were younger, that one found its way in there, and it was like, in a time where there was like a bunch of like raunchy songs, it was like, your grandma's kind of dance song got in there. It kind of felt like that. But yeah, I'll say this, to the point of Nikolai Ehlers and Gabe Vilardi. These guys work. They've always worked. There's a natural chemistry. If you ask Gabe Vilardi about Nikolai Ehlers, he loves playing with him. It's one of the reasons that there's always been such a debate about breaking up that first line and getting Ehlers and Vilardi on the line together. I think it's really something that they've been able to capitalize on the power play by getting these two players together. And it's simple, Ken. It's as simple as it gets. What do we always see? What have we always seen from Nikolai Ehlers? He'll come flying down that wing, and rather than get the puck and skate around sometimes he'll do that, but for the most part, if he'll get in and he'll wire a shot, and he's scored a lot of nice goals in his career from that, and he'll whip that shot, and it's dangerous. But Nikolai Ehlers, for the most part, he used to do this a lot too when he had possession of the puck. He'd go skating up he'd be near the blue line, and all of a sudden he would just switch and pull a 180 and whip the puck on net every once in a while. In fact, Ken, I hate to say it, but one of the times that he stands out in his ability to get heat on that shot is the time that he turned and whipped the shot, and it ended up hitting oh my goodness, why am I Brian Little in the head, and then that ended up being what ended his career. I don't want to make this a downer, but it's my way of saying Nikolai Ehlers has always been a player that just simply does that thing. I say, get it to the front of the net and create chaos. Gabe Vilardi is a guy who just quite simply goes to the front of the net and capitalizes on chaos. And I don't know if you saw that, all you folks out there, if you watched the game on Saturday, we did something on Gabe Vilardi and the goals that he scores. Of the goals he's scored this year, only 2 of them don't come from like right in front of the slot. Like most of his goals are like 4 feet from the net tonight, 4 feet from the goal line. That's where he's scoring all his goals from. He and Nikolai Ehlers work, and they've always worked because Nikolai Ehlers has a quite simple directive to get to the puck or get the puck to the front of the net. Gabe Vilardi has a quite simple directive to get to the front of the net and capitalize on pucks going there. They work, and it's just obvious. It's easy. It's nice. It's really one of the things that we found, especially as the season has gone on, Ken, that when you try to take away Kyle Connor from shooting, what we're finding right now is if they can get the puck to Nick Ehlers, Nick Ehlers is the guy who's finding a way to get it inside to Gabe Vilardi, and it's in the back of the net. It is very sweet to see between those guys the chemistry that they've built and the ability, even if it fumbles off his stick like it did a couple games ago, for Nikolai Ehlers to find a way to get the puck very quickly to the front of the net and usually find it right on the stick of Gabe Vilardi.
Yeah, and I mean, we saw Sean Monahan make a huge impact on the power play and the pop position as well, right? So there was the partial blueprint there, but I think the way that Davis Payne has incorporated Ehlers into that job and making him believe. I mean, let's go back to the first conversation we had with Ehlers in the preseason when he was moved into that spot. He's talking about watching video of Sebastian Aho and Patrice Bergeron and some of the best guys to play in that position. I think it's pretty obvious that Ehlers put in the video time, but it's his ability to show his creativity in a spot that, not anyone previously had envisioned him being in that spot. That is incredibly impressive to me.
I just wanted to touch on this quickly. All you folks out here who are in this chat room and you are like calling out and on top of the likes of Stanley and Hainla and Perfetti, my guess is the Venn diagram of those of you who are in complaining about those players and then proposing trades that are basically saying, let's take Perfetti, Hainla, and Stanley and package them up and send them to Buffalo for, by the way, a former first overall pick in Owen Power, and then throw Dylan Cousins, who had 68 points his third season in the league and is only 1 year older than Cole Perfetti and is 5 inches taller than Cole Perfetti. This is who said this. This is pretty good. Okay, hold on. Oh, I don't have it. I don't have it.
Don't forget the star of the commentary.
Well,
Come
here,
on, let's go
Rain
here.
said Perfetti, Villian, and Stan for a first for Cousins and Byram, a 4th overall pick in the past. But someone had said here, I don't have it. It was so good. Someone made the really good comment where they just basically said, people, what they're doing is they are taking all the stuff that they hate about the Jets, all the stuff that they see are problems, and saying, you know what would be a great idea? Let's take all our problems, all the players that we don't think are very good, and trade them for the best players on the other team.
Yeah.
And it's just like, or why don't we do a 1-for-1? Why don't we do Hainla for Sidney Crosby, and we'll do Stanley for Nathan McKinnon, and maybe, just maybe, they'll do Perfetti for McDavid, and there we go, and everything will work out after that. Everyone keeps sending me these trade proposals. Yeah. That's not happening. Stop sending me trade proposals where the players that you hate go for the best players around the league. That's not going to work.
This is how I traded hockey cards as a teenager, Sean.
Yeah, there you go. To the kid who only cared which colors were on the card. Well, I like blue, so give me the blue card, and you're like, here you go. You get the San Jose guy, and I'll take your Gretzky rookie card. Okay, that's how it goes. That's not how it goes, people. Hey, it's not how it goes.
Anyway. Sorry, quickly, before we go too crazy, no real update comment on Josh Morrissey. Sean, we both saw it. I mean, Josh Strange bumps into Scheifele on a weird play, leg or knee area, hits the post. He goes down the tunnel. You see him walking. He comes back, takes a shift, first skates during the broadcast timeout, then comes out for a shift, looks a little bit skating gingerly on the ice. I think it was a smart call for him to come out of the game. I expect it to be precautionary, but again, no way of knowing. Scott O'Neill said he had no update. We'll find out probably later in the week. Back to back on the horizon. Either way, good to shut him down for tonight. I don't anticipate it's long term, but again, we won't know a real answer until later on. And for those who missed it, fractured larynx for Colin Miller and Dylan Samberg. He'll be out at least 2 weeks, and Dylan Samberg shed the non-contact, but it will need at least one or two practices here. I expect him this weekend, Sean, but I don't necessarily think he'll play back-to-back. Similar to when Ehlers was held out an extra day, I think that maybe again, I'm not saying he won't play Friday, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's held out till Saturday. Maybe he comes back in against the Avalanche. But again, let's see how the next couple days play out. That's what we have in terms of injury updates.
I just wanted to do this because it was called earlier on. I don't have the example, but it's been called, and this is a great show to be wearing the headband. So let's make this a Kenny and Renny, a Sean's headband version of the Kenny and Renny show, folks. Ken, I want to lean into that a little more before we move on.
Sure.
JMO being out of the lineup, the significance of that player, and how do you possibly survive the loss of the player that I personally think can, and it's saying a lot with Kyle Connor playing the way that he is, with Mark Scheifele playing the way he is. Outside of Connor Hellebuyck, the goaltender, I do believe personally Josh Morrissey is the most important skater on the Winnipeg Jets team. How do you survive the loss of a player like that who logs as many minutes and is as brilliant as he is?
Yeah, I mean, it's the classic case of, the sum of the parts has to be better than the individuals in those cases. Josh just does so many things that, very few people in the league can do. So you don't have someone that comes in and say, hey, we'd like you to emulate what Josh Morrissey brings on a nightly basis. That's just not going to be happening. But what we did see even today, Dylan DeMello elevates his game. Probably played his best game of the year, is what I saw. Sean, I mean, I think there was room for improvement for a good chunk of the first half. Again, you're seeing great effort from DeMello, but he hasn't been as impactful offensively as he was last season. Today he comes in and plays more than anybody else on the Jets. He played 25, 27, 29 shifts, one shot, 5 hits, 3 block shots. Absolutely loved his game. Neil Pionk still played 23:56 despite taking 2 minor penalties in the game. So, I mean, you're seeing guys step up. What do we see? We see Scott Arniel go over to Dylan Coghlan when Logan Stanley gets a 4-minute minor and say, hey, I know we don't usually, we haven't had you on the PK yet. We haven't had you in many of the PK meetings, but I need you to go out and kill on this situation here. So, and what does Dylan Coghlan do? He went out and did the job. So it's a big opportunity for someone like Coghlan. And Sean, with Colin Miller being out at least 2 weeks with a scary injury, I was curious, with Sandberg being on the kind of horizon here, would this just be one and done for Coghlan, or would he get a bit of runway? Now I think we're going to see a little bit more runway for Coghlan. He played both on the right and left side today. It looked good again. Again, this is a guy who, I've been promoting for him to play more. I think he'll have a chance to play more. But again, you're not, you don't have someone that can come in and do all the jobs that Josh does. Run the power play, be a top pairing guy that can play against the other team's best forwards and play, and then also, by the way, put up 70 points. I mean, the Jets don't have another guy like that.
No.
With all due respect to Ville Heinola, who can run the second power play. But it's a situation where the Jets are got to be pretty hopeful that this is just a precautionary measure. Again, we'll just see how it goes. I don't want to do too much on the hypothetical side before we know if he's even going to miss a single game. But I mean, again, it would be a humongous blow for the Jets. I mean, you were on with Matty and Mike Vuda, Sean, yesterday. I mean, already being without Dylan Sandberg, it's been incredibly impactful. Not only was Sandberg playing at a great level, Neil Pionk was playing at a level that, we haven't basically seen since the first or second year when he's been with the Jets. So that's a huge factor as it is. But, having the Jets defense is way better when they have Morrissey and Sandberg in it, because it allows the players around them to elevate their games as well. So, it would be a massive blow for sure. But again, I don't think that Josh comes back in the first place if this is risking to be a long-term injury type of situation. So I would think that it's more on the precautionary measures, but we'll see.
No, okay, good stuff. What did I want?
It's just flying by here.
It is flying by here. I know. Let's go through some of the awards. We're gonna get through the awards. I guess we should probably talk about Stanley, because a lot of people.
Sweet Lou, quickly, maybe, or no?
Why don't you give Sweet Lou a shout out?
You bet. For folks who have realty needs you'd like to have met, contact our main man, Lou Ferlin at Royal LePage Dynamic Realty, 204-791-9971, or at the office, 204-989-5000. His email is lou@louferlin.ca. That's LOU@LOUFURLAN.ca. Lou Ferlin, excellent realtor, excellent human being, and excellent supporter of our fine community.
Let's do the Stanley thing before we move on here tonight. I thought it was a rough night for him.
Oh, yeah.
That the first goal. I mean, I usually on power plays, penalty kills. Like, hey, if you're going to be a guy who's consistently on the penalty kill, you're going to have more goals against you. That's just the way that it goes. But I just thought the way that he was trying to block that shot, he did nothing to take away that shooting lane. Kind of had the stick out, didn't have the body in the shooting lane. That's not what they're looking for. So he was late to the spot that he needed to be to. I had someone text me and say, the second one isn't his fault. I don't agree with that. So what you're supposed to do as a defender is, and I get what he's doing. He's got a guy in the corner. He's trying to keep that guy from getting to the front of the net. That's what he's supposed to be doing. But the body positioning that you're using needs to be different than that. He is just totally turned and put all his focus on that player. And now his skates are lined up in a way that the puck can deflect in. Now, let's just say Roman Josi was galaxy brained and actually took a shot to deflect it off of those skates and in. You could do it in that situation. I don't think that that's what happened, but the fact that your skates are pointed in that direction means that you are funneling pucks towards the net. That's not the defensive posture that players are taught. If you see and think of this, you will remember this. The Jets last year, who were a really good team at just in tough games, getting shots to the net and redirecting them, they didn't have luck against the Colorado Avalanche in the playoffs because if you remember, Colorado's defense were so good at fronting the puck, having their chest and their logo towards the puck. So when they were blocking shots, they weren't just blocking shots, they were gloving them down, knocking them down, and then skating forward with it. That's perfect defensive positioning. So what Logan Stanley needs to be doing in that situation is actually have his chest facing the puck carrier, but still being positioned in a way that he's not allowing that player to get to the front of the net. Then when you couple that with the 4 minutes penalty, like, it was a really, really rough night for Logan Stanley. The minutes go up for everybody when a player like Josh Morrissey goes down. I didn't think he responded to it well. You're talking about, let's say Josh Morrissey comes back, Sandberg comes back. I like to say it now, Ken's using his noggin for Coughlin. That's what he's been doing lately. I think Coughlin, we talked about him today. I like the conversation we had with him. This is a guy who just seems right at this point to just be like, look, I know the situation I'm in. I'm just going to get in and I'm going to play well. I don't have any excuses for myself. I'm not going to say, give me a couple games to get up to speed. Coughlin just goes in and he produces. He's earned time, like you have said here, Ken. The ice time and minutes for players outside of those guys, I think we're established at the point where who out there has earned their minutes. We've seen who those players are. And like I said this before with Ville Heinola, who I thought had some good moments tonight. Yep. I thought it was a better showing tonight for Ville Heinola, and you're going to be surprised because he's going to take away one of my awards for the night here tonight. It's going to be my version of Say Something Nice About Ville. But even then, Ville, all those guys, the competition on the back end, we know there's like, it's a game of musical chairs. And soon enough, when these guys get healthy, there's not going to be a lot of chairs there. And yep. I think at this stage, if you're taking a look at the guys outside of, if you're taking a look and you've got Fleury and you've got Coughlin and you've got Miller and you've got Stanley and you've got Heinola, I agree with you, Ken. I do think that the two players that have shown best out of that group of five are Coughlin. Very limited sample size, but yep. Coughlin and Fleury. And those other players are behind those players.
Yeah, and tonight Coughlin, 20 minutes and 24 seconds. I mean, like this for a guy who's playing
into the lineup,
who's playing in his fifth game of the year, fifth game out of 42. This is not an easy job. 34 on 30 shifts, including 329 while shorthanded. So impressive showing. I mean, Heinola too. Heinola, nice job also. 1601, credited with his first assist of the year. I'm still kind of confused as to how the puck didn't hit Dylan Coughlin on the first goal for the Jets, and that when it went to Scheifele. But regardless, I mean, I talked about it with Ville on the weekend. I mean, he said he had to be better to stay in. He was better tonight after a game where, he was on the wrong side of things on the defensive play on the goal by DeBrincat the other night. Nice bounce back by Heinola for sure. But again, Coughlin just taking another important step forward. And if you trust him enough to play 20-34, even though yes, you only have 5D, I mean that's got to sit well for him as he continues to try to stack strong games. And just kind of lastly to your point on Stanley, Sean, I mean, you played some defense. Skate's got to be pointed north there, right? I mean, I appreciate the fact that he was going to aggressively attack the box out there, which is something he hasn't done well enough this year, but you have to do it with better body position, right? So, and yes, we understand it's hard to do. But yeah, that was a play that, wasn't his best. And I think on the first one, Sean, I think it was more, not necessarily how Stanley played Forsberg on the shot, more that he had an opportunity to clear the zone, probably unpressured, and just wasn't able to get the puck out. I think
I didn't like either.
No, exactly. No,
Yeah.
neither play was strong. He had a rough goal. There's no doubt. And he still played 23 minutes despite serving 4 minutes.
Yeah,
in the
and
box,
he got caught in no man's land there.
on Marchie too, before the penalty. Man,
he put himself in no man's land. Yeah,
pretzel.
Yeah. Wanted to say this because I was teasing you a little bit in the morning skate when we saw Kupari put in a really nice goal. I'll say this: guy can't buy a point. He gets his point stripped.
Ridiculous!
Know this? He gets his point stripped because in the end they believe that it's the national defenseman. Blankenberg puts the puck in the net, and then it becomes an own goal.
Stupid rule.
Which means that the last player to touch the puck gets the goal, and that would be Morgan Barron, which means Rasmus Kupari, who entirely created that play. Like that is Rasmus Kupari creating a goal with a beautiful move, by the way, really deceptive. Mm-hmm. Talk about great goaltending by Saros in that situation, Ken, in that he's got the post sealed, he's looking the other way, but he's so good on his details that he's waiting until he sees Kupari before he pushes off the back post. But Kupari's move is so good, he doesn't see it coming, but great move by Kupari there. He doesn't get an assist. He deserves when that goal doesn't happen. If it's not for him, he's the most important person on that goal. I just wanted to say that. Ken, let's get to the Johnson Group Got You Covered play of the game. What do you got?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things, and I texted you one, but I'm going to switch my vote to Adam Lowry's job on the penalty kill. I just thought he was exceptional today, especially during the 5-on-3. 7-10 while shorthanded today, Sean. 2 block shots, exceptional in the draw, 67% overall, and a lot of wins on the penalty kill there as well. I just thought he was darn great. So I'm going to go with Lowry cumulative, especially with his play during the 5-on-3. A couple important blocks and a really important clear or two as well.
MBHA, because Taves was paid $20 million for healing and spiritual healing, he's good to go. I don't know if he's being tongue-in-cheek here. The report that happened on this, because I know we touched on this, Elliot Friedman said last Saturday that what they are trying to mull over in his camp right now is whether or not he's better off to try and come back this year or give it the full year skating to get ready in the summer and then make himself available as an unrestricted free agent in the summertime. So there's talk of Jonathan Taves coming back. I think he's very cognizant that if he launches too early, comes back and doesn't show well, then it really affects what he could do going forward. So it's interesting. Does a guy want to come in and jump in for a playoff run at the right moment, or does he want to have a little bit more longevity? You have to worry about if the goal is longevity, you have to worry about how a short playoff run, should you rush yourself back and not show well, would affect what you do going forward. That's an interesting situation. Anyways, Johnson Group Got You Covered play of the game. I've got it right here. It is Ville Heinola. There's a one-on-one scenario between he and Jonathan Marchessault. Jonathan Marchessault, I believe, has a path to the net. Ville Heinola catches him, cuts off that path to the net, which usually means you are like throwing everything you have into going forward. And then all of a sudden, Marchessault button hooks to go in behind him. Ville Heinola slams on the brakes, gets to the spot that Marchessault is trying to get to first. That's how a small guy has to defend. You just have to. Pionk does it very, very well. when a guy's trying to go somewhere, you get there first and you're right in on inside of him. Whenever you are that player who is inside the player and your shoulders pressed up against his chest and your arms are on the other side of the guy, that's when you know you're doing it right. That was perfectly played by Heinola at a time in the game that if Marchessault got in all alone and scored a goal, it could have been a very, very different outcome. That's my Johnston Group covered play of the game. How's that for saying something nice about Villy, folks? And hey, do you run a small business in Canada? Look to Canada's #1 employee benefits plan, Chambers Plan, to give you a competitive edge. Chambers Plan is the simple, stable, smart choice for over 30,000 businesses countrywide. Visit chamberplan.ca to learn more. Ken, what do you got for the hashtag the keg save of the game? You're muted.
Sorry, buddy. I got a little cough going here. Tons of crazy saves. I know some people like the double save on Nyquist. I actually thought the second one was wide, so I'm not going with that one. I think to me the one was the one off Hellebuyck's mask. I think it was Yossi, but it also could have been Marchessault. I'm not 100% sure who took the shot. It was during the 5-on-3. Hellebuyck made a number of crazy saves, including a little bit of a Snow Angel special out there, but I think I'm going with the it was Marchessault off the mask of Hellebuyck, one of many beauties on the evening where he put up 26 overall.
To me, it's kind of a shared one. 2 shots from the point where they got wide open for Roman Yossi. Yeah. He's got a direct line to the net. He scores on a lot of those. The way that Connor Hellebuyck, with all that chaos happening, gets out to challenge him, makes 2 great saves on Roman Yossi, who has made a career out of scoring on those plays in those moments. Again, there are so many moments in this game, never mind the first 5 minutes of the game. Like, Connor Hellebuyck's not Connor Hellebuyck in the first 5 minutes of those games. I know we're talking about a 5-2 win for the Jets, and it feels like it's a little bit of domination station. This game is an entirely different game. If you want to talk about like alternate histories, there's probably 9, 10, 11 saves in this game Connor Hellebuyck makes that entirely change the direction of what this game goes. And we could be looking at an entirely different outcome. And every one of the moments where the history of this game could have turned and gone in the direction of the Nashville Predators, it was Connor Hellebuyck who turned it in the other direction. This entire game for me is a hashtag the keg save of the game, but it really doesn't matter what I think or if I try and bend the rules like I just did. It matters what you think. Share with us your hashtag the keg save of the game. You'll be automatically entered to win a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg. Each location finer than the last. And the winner of the $50 gift certificate, that would be Jeff Johnson. Jeff, you know what to do. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your full name. Send me an email, and I will have the fine folks at the keg send you a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg, each location finer than the last. And I just want to announce, I know there was a little bit, people thought that I awarded the $50 gift certificate to a bot last game because it was at JMK-X, Big X, Little X. Well, real person sent me it. It will be coming their way. So that's why I do it. That's why I give bots and people a chance to because bots are people too, folks. Bots are people too. Time to move on and get into our hashtag TCB lamplighter of the game. What do you got, Ken?
Yeah, just quickly, just reinforcing your alternate universe special, Sean. I mean, honestly, the first period, it could have been 2-0 Predators, and it also could have been 5-0 Jets. The Sorrow save on Scheifele was one of the best saves we've seen this year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was just a weird set of circumstances, but repeatable goals again, vision of Scheifele, finish of Connor. I'm going with the Kyle Connor goal. I think, lots of great candidates today, but I think that play top line was a little quieter than we've seen at times on the weekend.
Yeah. I was thinking that they had 2 points tonight or 2 goals tonight.
But I thought that was a really good. That was a really good play, and I think that I'm going to go with that one as my lamplighter. Even though, like I said, there's a ton of good options out of the 5 for the Jets, and even the goals for the Predators were also impressive. But going with the Kyle Connor 20 the third of the year.
I
as my
should
Hellebuyck.
be going with the Morgan Barron goal because it's just quite simply jam it, get it to the front of the net, push the puck in. Love
Yeah.
those goals. You can score them at any time of the year. I'm not going to do that though because of two shots that were so pretty. I was very, very tempted to give the Forsberg goal on the power play for their first goal of the game because that shot was like it was one of those ones that you shoot and it doesn't matter who's shooting, you just are left going like woohoo, you know what I mean? It was just like teleported into the net. I couldn't believe how perfect it was. No one is stopping that shot. I don't care who you are. But I get the same thing from the Josh Morrissey goal, which is absolutely a perfect goal. But what I will say about this, perfect screen by Alex Iafallo, and you can see it play out, and it's funny because before he shot the puck, Josh Morrissey, you saw this play out. Iafallo gets perfectly into the eyes of the player, but what he also does, or of the goaltender, but he also gets a defenseman who's arriving late, has to come and try and take him out of the way. So what ends up happening is Soros looks around Iafallo. He's got to look around him that way. And now Josh Morrissey knows he can't get back to that post. So Josh Morrissey's got a place to go. But even if he was trying to get back there, the defender, as he closes in on Iafallo, creates an extra wide wall. Now it's, instead of being like a 2-foot 20-foot wide wall of Alex Iafallo's back that he can't see through, he's got to look through his other defender as well. Josh Morrissey sees that and knows if he puts it in the right spot, it's going in the back of the net. And I saw it in his posture, Ken. He knew exactly where to go. He put it exactly there. Perfect shot, because those shots are repeatable goals when you get guys going to the front of the net like that. That is the prettier of the two goals, and thus for me, the hashtag TCB Lamplighter of the game, brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company. And hey, it doesn't matter what we think, matters what you think. Share with us your TCB Lamplighter of the game. You're automatically entered to win a frosty, delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company. If you can't wait for Kenny and Renny to gift you your frosty, delicious 8-pack, you know what to do. Head on down to their tap room at 11290 Kenniston Boulevard, where they have all the beers, all the great food, all the great atmosphere, and just like the friendliest staff that you've ever met in your life when you go there. So the winner from the TCB Lamplighter from our last show, that would be Charlie Dufault. Charlie Dufault, who I saw early in the show. Don't know if you're still here. You know what to do, Charlie. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your full name. Send me an email. I will send you a voucher for a frosty, delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company. You know, Charlie, or you're about to find out. It is the nectar of the gods. Ken, anything to say before we go?
Yeah, not often that I miss a Bar Down Clap City special as my lamplighter. So that's a swing and a miss there, but nice job. Thanks for picking me up.
Yeah.
Good job on that one.
It just, you made me look that much more glorious. I mean, I won the analysis battle tonight with that.
I was thinking about Morrissey's injury. I totally misplaced the clap bomb. Yeah, it was impressive. Just lastly, I mean, I spent a lot of time defending Cole Perfetti and just preaching a little bit more patience. Tough outing for Cole for me, that second line. Another great chance for Nemestikov, but overall, I didn't see a lot of cohesion on the line. I see effort, but I don't see a lot of cohesion right now.
Yeah,
they've got to elevate.
Disjointed is the best way to say it. And now someone had put it out there. I think it's 7 straight games without a point. Like, I don't think that you can go. I've said this before. You know, I've been saying this for quite a while now. You can't go into the playoffs with a second line that is as inconsistent as producing as this line is. And I'll say this again. Cole Perfetti is a guy who's putting himself right in the same situation that he was in last year. He goes dormant for too long of stretches. He's a great NHL player, right? Like we pointed it out last game. He makes great defensive plays. He doesn't cost you when he's out there, but that's not the job of a top 6 player. The job of a top 6 player is not to go out and occupy time on the ice and not harm you. The job of that player, you are going to need more than Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele and Gabe Velarde to score to get really deep in the playoffs. You're going to need more than that line and the power play going to get deep in the playoffs. You're going to need more than that line going in the power play and the third line chipping in at the rate that they're capable of chipping in to get deep in the power play. You are going to need secondary top six scoring. The Winnipeg Jets second line right now is showing that they are not trustworthy enough to go into the playoffs to provide that scoring you are going to need to get deep in the playoffs. And those players have to, we're starting to see what I always used to say about Patrick Laine when he was playing with Brian Little, that he needed to escape Brian Little to get his points. That was quite often on the power play. We're starting to see the same thing with Nikolai Ehlers. Nikolai Ehlers has been a pretty consistent point producer since he got back in the lineup from his injury. That line is not producing consistently. That means that Nick Ehlers is finding a way to do it outside of those guys. Nemestikov had a point the other night. Nemestikov, we've said this before, he is what he is. I think we've always thought that he's a placeholder on that line. If you don't think that Cole Perfetti is a placeholder on that line, that he belongs there and that he belongs there going into the playoffs, he has to start producing. He has to. It's as simple as that. You can argue with me all you want. You can blame it on the guys around him. He's a big boy. He's a man. He's in a big boys league. You've got to go find a way to pick your team up and push them down the road. They need more from him heading forward. That's it for me, Ken. Anything else before we go?
No, perfect. I mean, we talked about, Perfetti last year being a 19 goal scorer, and some people were saying, oh, how could the Jets keep him out of the lineup and cost him the $250,000 bonus? And Cole went a quarter of the season without scoring a goal. So I don't like that. I didn't like that narrative then, and I don't like it now. I mean, Cole has got to produce a little bit more, and I think he knows it, and I think the effort is there. And Cole is often his harshest critic, and when he's having fun and doing the things that he's good at, he's a very effective player, and I expect him to be able to elevate his game in the next little while here. But he's going to have to do a better job.
Fans lead with their heart, so I know that they think, especially the ones who have been saying for years, Cole Perfetti is going to hit, and it's going to be this. People just want to be right? So they feel attacked when I say these kind of things. I think it's pretty clear if you just listen to what I'm saying. I'm not trying to attack Cole Perfetti. I'm stating a fact. This is a fact. The Winnipeg Jets want to win a Stanley Cup. They're not going to win it if Cole Perfetti is in a pattern in the playoffs of not getting a point for an entire series. Because it's 7 games that we just saw. That's a series long. You can't be doing that. Top 6 players on teams that win the Stanley Cup, for the most part, I'm sure you can find examples here or there. I don't think it's a common thing where you get guys going dormant like that. He can't be going dormant like that. This is not a criticism of the player. This is setting the expectation that is required to succeed in the NHL. It's as simple as that. And I'm just saying the truth out loud in this situation. That's my take. We done here, Ken? Anything else? We're done.
Nope,
okay.
You nailed it.
Folks, thank you very much. We appreciate you tuning in, and we ask you to appreciate our sponsors. If you do appreciate the conversations happening in this space, please appreciate our sponsors who fight to keep the conversation going in this space. For us, that's Vittorio Rossi, Cambrian Credit Union, Pristine Roofing, Sweet Lou Furlan, the Johnson Group, the Keg, and of course, TransCanada Brewing Company. Thank you to them. Thank you to all of you, folks. Let's reconvene. We had so much fun. Your takes were so on. You got that Pristine Roofing wake-up call. Let's do it. Keep that roofing wake-up call going. Let's take it into Friday and do it all over again. Big game. I think that the LA Kings are playing maybe the best hockey they've played in the last 3 years. They've found another way. I thought they played really well against the Jets and kind of took it to the Jets. Jets have something to prove in this game on Friday. We'll talk about it when it's all done. Thanks for joining us, folks. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.